peg a number is because the truth is the boundaries on what we consider to be marketing technology are pretty fluid. How's that for dodging the question?
Very nice. Very nicely done, I must say that. But I think on that note, we're going to enter the your session with Scott.
Thank you, Scott, for this wonderful session.
Fantastic presentation.
Thank you so much for having me.
Time.
Have a great weekend.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we move on to the next session for the day. It's a very special session. It's actually a leaders panel. We have with us three fantastic speakers: Paranthingu Thiruvengadam, CTO MedLife; Yash Dayal, CTO Zivame; and Sandeep Komaravelli, Director of International Growth, Shopify. So I welcome all of you. Please, Ruhail, we can start with the session.
Yes. Welcome. I'm your co-moderator. Sonakshi and me will be asking questions. Before we begin, I just want to announce that we are live on social platforms, as well as you can post your questions on Zoom. We will be glad to be asking our esteemed speakers. Without further delay, I want to straight away go to my very first question. I will start with you, Mr. Sandeep. If you're there, yes, you can hear me, yes.
Hello, yes.
Yes. Tell me, we're talking about e-commerce and the road ahead. First, tell me, how has e-commerce journey been in the, it becomes a very must-ask question in the last 90 days, if I may say.
Yeah, I think like most of the things that we know have changed for good, and some, I don't know if they're going to go back to normal given what we are seeing, but specific to e-commerce, I think there are two large trends that we've observed at Shopify. And maybe I can briefly touch upon both of them. The first one, I think, is something that you would expect. There is a lot of surge in demand for retailers and businesses wanting to go online. And that is expected because obviously all the businesses who've considered online as a nice to have channel now no longer look at it as a nice to have because of like the constraints that we are living currently under. What has been interesting is also like the type of retailers who are going online. So we see a lot of interest from brick and mortar retailers and also those who are in the essential goods category. There's been a lot of demand and surge in those businesses wanting to go online. That's, I think, the first trend. The second one, I think, is just businesses and retailers realizing the importance of not only selling locally, but also being able to deliver locally. As you're aware, because of all the constraints, it has become very important to have these tools and these platforms which can help you not only market yourself effectively within your neighborhood, within the locality, but also being able to deliver that. And I think that has also changed the way businesses think of online as a channel traditionally. So those are the two big trends amongst a lot of the other smaller ones that we've observed in Shopify at least.
Parant, the same question to you. What are your observations of the last 90 days and the impact it has on e-commerce?
See, there is a big shift in the landscape when I say March, April to now. See, if you look at March and April timeframe, we had a lot of problems from the healthcare because MedLife is an e-health platform. We had fundamental issues of supply chain completely broken. We couldn't get people to our warehouse. We couldn't find people to deliver medicines, even though the demand is very high. The demand was actually high even starting, but we had all these challenges because of which we couldn't do. But after like May onwards, the supply chain, interstate supply chain was fine. We could be able to get people both from our warehouse perspective as well as from our last mile perspective. But some of the challenges we see is, so each of these ones, there is a SOP now published by the government to maintain it of, for example, how to run a warehouse, how to maintain a last mile system, last mile agents. These things are putting in an additional constraint which are needed necessarily. Those are some of the things which is happening. But the good part about the whole spectrum is, for example, if you see a consumer behavior, our e-consultation before was actually very less. Predominantly, people used to come to us for buying medicines in online. But now, because the going to a hospital is a bigger problem for them, our consultation, e-consultation demand has improved drastically. The same is the case with e-pharmacy, because people are scared to actually go to an offline pharmacy to meet in. So that's why the demand is very good for us in both these things. but there are some constraints by which we have to operate, which is taking a toll on it. That's pretty much.
Yes, if you take the rear mirror view, how do you see this last 3 months? Sorry, your audio is muted.
Sorry. Hey, first of all, guys, let me introduce myself. I'm Yash. I work for Zivame. I think most of you guys know Zivame is India's leading destination for women's intimate wear in India. And my role in Zivame is leading the overall technology vision of the company. I think I would agree with what Prashant and Sandeep have said, right? Sorry, what Parant and Sandeep have said. It's been a roller coaster ride, would be like almost like an understatement. I think in Zivame, we've gone through stages where we had a complete store shutdown. We were not getting orders in. Again, lots of challenges on the supply chain side. Uh, so, and I think what is what was very interesting and scary at the same time was that you didn't. So until now, there was still a little bit of predictability. So even though we say e-commerce is very fast, changing rapidly, but the amount of unpredictability during these times was just enormous, right? So you would not know tomorrow whether your warehouse is working or whether there'll be a containment in the warehouse, whether your office can continue. Of course, a lot of us, everyone started working from home, so that brought its own set of interesting challenges. Overall, I would say a whirlwind and roller coaster thing. But on the positive side, right? If you look at everything, where for any constraint, what are the opportunities? I think it gave us a very nice opportunity where we were so typically companies, e-commerce companies especially, are always rushing to manage the scale, and there's a lot of chaos to support the business. So the opportunity here was that we could all take a little bit of we got a little bit of elbow room to go out and clean the shop and clean the house a little bit and clean the tech. So
Right. Parant, I want to come to you with this question. Yours is a different category. There is a surge in demand, right? There is, despite what the market sentiment is, I mean, there's a certain kind of traffic that's coming your way. From the tech perspective, if I had to ask you, from the marketing technology perspective, have you, what are the different changes or different adaptations or different readjustments that you have made to suit the timing, the way customers tend to engage with e-commerce platforms in this kind of a pandemic time?
See, overall, in the case of tech, if you see, there are a lot of things we have changed. If you look at our business early February, I would say majority of our customers pay by COD, cash on delivery. But now there is a need for a contactless delivery to come in, and there is a need for us to get a prepayment share increased drastically. So that is the first point from the customer perspective to see. This is one of the biggest change we have done, and pretty much in every flow, we want to adopt a prepaid for that. So now customers are not used to it because they're historically used to paying by cash. So when we come to the doorstep, we enable them, hey, I'll push you an SMS, you can directly pay it right at the door point, or I'll give you a QR code right at the door point, you can pay it. So that is one step of the journey. The other one, if you look at it, for example, our diagnostics business, wherein we come to home, pick up our blood sample. This is very scary, right? Why will anybody come to you? Because at this point in time, but there are a lot of chronic patients. If you're a diabetic patient, you're expected to do a sample test a quarter once. So normally when a diagnostics person, when a phlebotomist goes to our house, he will have everything. He'll have a gloves, all the new kits, but now he'll have a PPE kit, and we'll actually give him a lot more safety precautions so that the customer is a lot more comfortable. If I shift this from a customer to our warehouse side, originally when our warehouse agents comes into a warehouse, they have a biometric one, which will do the fingerprinting and they enter. Now, because of the COVID time, we cannot allow him to do that. So then there is a face recognition one based on this, we haven't put as attendance. So the attendance, right from the attendance registering, rostering doing it, bookmarking is timing, everything has changed from the warehouse side, as well as from the end customer, multiple things. These are the things we have changed.
Sandeep, how has it been for you from the tech, marketing tech side? Did you get enough time to kind of change, adapt to new technology? Because initially, I think there was a dip in sentiment, of purchase sentiment. How did you utilize that time? And did you add any new features from the tech side of it? Could you take us through that?
Yeah, for sure. And for us, I think it's a lot more to do with how we are able to work and enable our merchants, because Shopify, as you may be aware, is a platform that is helping merchants to go online, right? And it is a platform that can help you just not only set up quickly, but also grow and manage your retail business, irrespective of how small or how big you are, right? So our view to all of this is basically enabling and supporting merchants who are either going online for the first time, or those who are completely reliant only on online channel for their sales. And there were 2-3 things that we had done on that side of on both of these, which is for new businesses or new entrepreneurs who are coming and setting up an online store. How do we enable them to actually do that in a very short window is what we've been focused on. And as I mentioned earlier, is there a way in which we can build out themes? So we have like these themes which are helpful for these new merchants to immediately go online within a couple of hours. There are also tools that we have provided to merchants so that they can easily communicate with their customers through social channels, through email, through all of these tools. And for those who are already online and are like, growing their business, we've started providing tools and integrations with all the local payment methods. Paran spoke about contactless delivery. Also, how do you transform all the demand that has been there from your physical stores? How do you basically convert that into online demand? And what is the easiest way to do that? I think those are some of the areas where we've been focused on, and that has been really helpful. I think the other aspect of it has also been around just communication and increasing awareness on what are the best ways that you can use all of the tools available, right? A lot of the tools are already available. I think if there's one thing that has happened in the last few years, it's just like the barrier for using some of these technology tools has gone down so much, both from a cost perspective and even from a usage perspective. So I think a lot of focus was also on just educating all of these retailers and merchants and brands on how do you make use of all of these to effectively just keep your business running and growing.
Right. Yes, your category has a bit of vanity in it. You know, people are very specific, very particular about buying intimate wear. And how do you enable an online experience that matches the offline part of it? I mean, the use of tech here is become very critical in your category, especially. You know, tell me. I mean, you said you got a lot of time to do away with some tech parts and introduce new ones. What were the new features added, and how did you utilize this time to build a very effective marketing tech site?
Sure. Uh, so, so there were basically two things that we started working on. So again, let me rephrase that we didn't get a lot of time, but I think relatively we got a little bit more time. Uh, I think one of the ones was that I think one of the core things we did is we took a look at uh, uh, what are core improvements and optimizations we could do on our servers, and actually that also helped in reducing some of our server costs, and that is overall added to more to it adds to the business health. In fact, I was speaking to some of my friends at AWS, and they said that this is something which they're seeing across the industry. Like most companies have actually gone in and double down on figuring out how to optimize their infrastructure, and they're actually seeing AWS bills go down for most of the startups. Uh, and the other thing is, I think it's something which will also happen naturally. Is I think as people were talking about contactless experience, right? So the moment you go into a store, it kind of becomes like a contact heavy experience. Uh, so I think one of the things we are looking to understand is whether there is a shift which happens from people who were traditionally going to retail stores, whether they actually start shifting towards the digital format. Having said that, I think at least on our retail stores, we've ensured that all the safety and hygiene is there. So if a customer really wants to go into a retail store, they should feel like completely comfortable going there.
Parant, tell me, there's another factor, which is that a seamless experience. Customer is buying online, but that they expect a certain kind of experience. And how are you using tech to enable, that seamless transition, a quick solution, and also what have been the key learnings from this phase, particularly that will stay with you as part of your strategy, especially the marketing tech side of it?
See, if you look at a seamless experience, there are multiple things we have done actually during the COVID time. So for example, you take a prescription and you go to a medical shop, and let's say a particular composition is not there. You know what the pharmacist will say? Hey, I don't have this combination, but I have this composition here. The molecular composition is same. Do you want to get it? So most of the time you go with the person and get it. But mostly in online, when we originally used to come, we never used to give the seamless experience. So we say, hey, whatever you're searching is not there, it's not there. Then we realized later, because our supply is blocked in, there are a lot of the substitutes that we used to have in, which we never exposed to the end user. So now if you come in, exactly how you shop in an offline, you will get the same experience if you come to MedLife. You'll search for a medicine and it'll say, hey, this is the medicine which is there. This is maybe a generic one, or it is a patented one, which is costly. These are the substitutes, same molecular composition. It is generic and it is available in inventory. It is at a cheaper discount. So the experience of what is customers are needing is exactly what do they expect from an offline pharmacy thing. The same experience they prefer to get it from the store, this one. And the next one, see, sometimes when you go to a hospital, right, you finish a doctor and you go to a pharmacist. Sometimes the doctor says, hey, you have these medications to buy, and these are the pathology test or the blood test that you need to do. So you need a single place where you're able to do both in the same one and you come back, right? Similarly, the one, when you come to a chronic patient, you're a diabetic and you're going and buying these ones, immediately we'll show you, hey, you're a diabetic patient. These are the packages that we have for your blood test to finish in, and this is what you can get through it. So exactly what you walk into a hospital, the same experience, or if you go to a pharmacy to buy, the similar experience you will see in the e-com space. That's one of the seamless experience we will now do.
So I will be asking questions to Sandeep and Yash, and then Sonakshi. We're getting a lot of questions. She'll come with some more audience questions also flowing, so we don't want to miss on them. So Sandeep, I want to come to you that you have the vendor side and you have the customer side, right? Where did you innovate the most? Where was the need to innovate the most as far as the tech part is concerned? And what were those innovations? If you can tell us, specifically.
Yeah, I mean, our platform is essentially for merchants. So whatever we do is largely for the merchant. And for us, most of the things that we do is feedback that we receive from the merchant saying, hey, I have this for my customers. So can you enable that? I think a couple of things in specific to like what happened in the last 90 days is basically one to do with communication. So are there ways in which we can help these merchants communicate better with their customers? So integration with social platforms, live updates. Is there a way in which we can keep constant communication going? I think it's just a matter of setting the right expectation. It's not like you want the delivery to happen in 2 hours or one day. It's about like just keeping the customers informed. So what is the best way to keep in touch with the customers? Second, I think is more to do with how do you enable that all the things that you're doing as a business, be it from like your stock outs or inventory or pricing changes, all of those you're able to manage it efficiently. I think those are the areas where at least Shopify has had like a lot of tools and features, because I think it becomes most important to set the right expectation in times like these when you have a lot of fluctuations, not just in like the constraints in running your own business, but even externally as well. The other important I don't think it's an innovation, but a change that we've seen at least of brands who've done better is like using the social channels, not just as channels to communicate promotions or way to acquire customers, but also using them as channels to collect feedback and interact. That has not been like that has not been one of the ways in which social channels were traditionally used, but it's been encouraging to see how that has been helpful. So tools of like how do you have a unified inbox to communicate, to manage all the messages that you're getting from customers across all social platforms. or integration with platforms which can push out live updates on various packages through WhatsApp. So things like those, which are largely in the communication domain, is where at least we've seen feedback from merchants that they have been very helpful.
Right. Yash, my question to you is that customer engagement in this period becomes very critical part of it. And I think tech is the only way, of course, to stay connected. Are you also, as part of your marketing policy and strategy, waiting for the offline to open, or are you completely adjusting to an online in a way that customers stay engaged? And how are you planning to keep them engaged using tech?
Okay. So I think thankfully, I think we have all types of Zivame customers, and I hope that that a majority of them are actually do both offline as well as online. I think a lot of changes in how the communication is happening. I think during COVID times there was a lot of communication about how our customers can. So we understood that that time it was paramount for customers to feel comfortable about safety and hygiene. So a lot of help on how they can manage themselves during COVID times. A lot of communication on those things. And another thing which I think across the industry people are seeing is, for example, if you look at, if you consider the Maslow's pyramid, I think customers have actually dropped down several levels. So I think suddenly safety, hygiene is becoming paramount. And also with all the economic changes, I think there's a lot more focus on getting value and focus on value. So I think those are some of the innovations which we're trying to do. For instance, Zivame has started selling COVID masks. So so that's an essential item that you can start buying. And overall, I think there were a lot of quick innovations which we had to do. For example, a large portion of our catalog is not essentials. So we had places where where deliveries could happen today but not happen tomorrow. If an order is coming from a red zone, how do we manage those? So a lot of innovation went in all around towards the front end, the customer facing side, as well as on the back end warehouse side, to manage all of these things.
Sonakshi, my colleague, has some questions for you.
Yes, I have received a few audience questions. The first one is by Vikram Kumar. Parant, this is for you. Did you see significant change in behavior of patients being open to shift prescriptions from what their doctor wrote? Or do they still insist on sticking to what doctors write?
There is a big shift, and it is not just because of COVID also, but COVID time it has improved drastically. I'll tell you. That is why I was telling you on the substitution one. So originally, if you see when a patient, when they upload a prescription, exactly what the medicine is there is what they prefer. Otherwise, they'll mostly say no. Now patients understand because there is a lot of engagement we have done. Our customer care agents have called them before to do a substitute, and that we have been doing for months. Then as part of COVID, what we did is as a tech facility in the app itself, you can do. So customers have changed a lot now, and they're okay to do a substitute, provided you give them the enough information, what's a composition which is matching both. So there is a big landscape shift on the substitution model.
So one is for Sandeep. Do countries behave differently when it comes to e-commerce otherwise?
I think it, the larger trends have remained the same. So like most of the retailers wanting to go online, I think those are the trends that have remained the same. The differences that we've seen is primarily in terms of the regulatory landscape. Like for example, in India, the non-essential ban on e-commerce was there. So all the demand and everything that we've seen is largely for those retailers who are in the essential goods category. But outside of that, I think the trend has been similar. That there's an increase in demand for like shifting your business to online. Most of the retailers are now looking at how do you efficiently grow that channel and not look at it as a supplement, but almost like one of the important channels along with your physical stores or physical business. So I'd say like the larger trends are similar. Of course, the local nuances are always there, but the larger trends are similar, I'd say, across countries.
All right. So I have another question, which is for Parant as well as for Yash. Do you develop a lot of technology frameworks in-house, or do you acquire them off the shelf? So Parant, maybe you can start first.
Okay, so majority of them, we take it from open source. Actually, we don't develop. In fact, pretty much the entire stack, I would say, is actually picked it up from the open source ones. And our deployment 100% is out of AWS. But there are some things which are, we don't go and buy products. For example, if we build a data platform, it's not like the off-the-shelf data platform we pick it up. We take Apache Spark as an engine for us, and then we build our data platform, because there are a lot of stitching that you have to do it. So we don't buy off-the-shelf products, but we don't go for licensed tech stacks.
Yash?
Yeah, I think similar to what Parant mentioned, I think we try to build as much as we can in-house. Again, we're also based on OpenStack, so try to leverage those, but try to build as much as we can in-house.
Okay, so last question for all three of you. What do you think are the future trends, considering all three of you from completely different e-commerce portals? So the trends are completely different.
In your
So,
respective, yes.
yeah, so irrespective. So what do you think is the next one? Sandeep?
Okay, yeah, I mean, I think the most important one that I feel is that some of the consumer behavior that has changed or that has been forced because of COVID, I think that will continue, which is good news for a lot of the merchants who are looking at online business. So that trend I think is going to continue. The second one I think is like all the the technology tools that are available today, that I think they will be like a sea change or improvement, and all of them will evolve over a period of time, because with changing times and like changing demands and requirements, they also need to evolve. So I think both of them are like things that at least in my view are going to continue even after the normalcy returns. I don't know wherever that is, but yeah, after the current set of constraints go away.
Okay. Parant?
In the e-health space, there is actually a big shift in the consumer behavior. And we think this is going to stay on for a long time. I'll give you two examples. If you look at pre-COVID time, we still used to have e-consultation, which is the paid consultation. You fix a doctor and you speak.
Mm-hmm.
But if you see for what all disease types they come there, it's pretty much one or two. Like 90%, I would say, is mental health issue or sexology issue. These are the only reasons for which they come to e-consultation. Rest all of the time, they're comfortable going and meeting a doctor face-to-face.
Yeah.
During the COVID time, what happened, a big shift is they understand the risk of going and meeting a doctor in the hospital or in the clinic. So they've actually tried out e-consultation as part of this COVID one. And a lot of them have become very comfortable. And it's not just our platform. If you look at all the e-consultation platform in India, startups, everybody's traffic or the order count has gone multi-x higher. And now I think what will happen is, let's say you live in Bangalore and you have fever and you want to go meet a doctor and come back. Minimum, I'll tell you, 4 hours it will take. 3 to 4 hours. By the time you drive, go meet a doctor, finish everything, come back home, easily you're done.
Yeah.
But here it's a 10 minutes call which you're done. This luxury they actually opened up only because of COVID necessity. And we think this is going to stay on for a long time. The other one is actually on the telemedicine side. Affordability and accessibility becomes an option. Before they didn't realize, because sometimes they go to the next door, buy a person. But when you go to the next door shop and you buy, you don't have enough data. For example, our tier 1 customers behave very differently. If it is a patented drug, I'll give you 10% discount. But if it is a generic drug substitute on the same, the discount range is very, very high. So these information they are never getting from the offline store. Yeah. So once you expose all these things, actually, we are thinking in both these spaces, the consumer behavior has changed drastically and it's going to remain there forever.
Very nicely put. Yash?
Yeah, I would echo with what Paran said. I think, unfortunately, not such a big spike as what he was talking about in the e-health sector. But overall, I think there will be a trend of people moving more towards online. So I think it's kind of like what demonetization did, right? It kind of enforced digital payments on a lot of people. So people were forced to use digital payments. I think because of this lockdown and because of all the constraints which people have, I think a lot of people who were not trying online or who had a little bit of hesitation, a lot of them have actually are trying online. So I would say there will be a trend towards moving into online space. And just to support that, right, even if you look at the fashion industry, if you look at some of the very traditional brick and mortar retailers like Zara and H&M, all of them are actually setting up online shops. So it's COVID has changed the world for sure. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much, dear panelists, Paran, Sandeep, Yash. You guys have been great. It has been a fantastically insightful session. With this, we actually end the Martech India Bridge 1 series, which is the first precursor to the main Martech India event in September 2020. So I thank you once again, everybody.
Thank you everyone for joining us. And I just want to mention that we still have a lot of questions unanswered, but we will try to maybe.
Yes, we are a little above time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. We will definitely take it
Thank
off.
you.
Thank you.
For the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you all. It was a great session.
Thank you.